Hi, Giggle Bobs. Welcome back to mine Pop story. Today's tale is about the jolly fun friends Benny the bunny, Tilly the tortoise, and Pop the parrot as they tried to make a special batch of Giggleberry Jam. But when silly mistakes turn their plan upside down, they learn the best ingredient is laughter. In a cozy corner of Happy Hollow lived Benny the bunny, Tilly the tortoise, and Pop the parrot, three best friends who shared a treehouse filled with yummy snacks, cheerful songs, and silly games. One bright and sunny morning, Benny was busy bouncing on his super speedy pogo stick while humming a happy tune. Suddenly, he stopped and shouted, "I know what we should do today." "Let's make Giggleberry Jam." Tilly ambled over, her head poking out from behind a giant cookbook. "That sounds like fun," she said, "but giggleberries only grow near Ticklitwig Hill, and it's quite a journey to get there." "Don't worry, Tilly," squawked Pop, who had been practicing his flying skills in the treehouse. "I can fly us there in no time at all. And besides, walking would take too long, and I've got some jokes that will make your shell crack with laughter." And before Tilly could protest, Pop had already swooped down, scooped them both up in his strong parrot wings, and whisked them away toward Ticklitwig Hill. Down below, they zoomed past giggling bluebirds, playful squirrels, and grumpy old Mr. Grumbles, who grumbled. "Good morning, Mr. Grumbles. How are you?" "Grumpy," he mumbled, hiding his face behind a watering can. "That's funny, McGrumbles," said Pop. "Why did the bicycle fall over? Because it was too tired." Mr. Grumbles shook his head and sighed very loudly. "Some jokes are just too corny," he grumbled, and continued watering his flowers. Pop just laughed and flew a little faster, making Benny and Tilly giggle too. Soon, they reached the bottom of Ticklitwig Hill. "Thanks for the lift, Pop," said Tilly, stretching her neck to get a better look at the hill. "But now we have to climb all the way to the top to pick the giggleberries." "Don't worry, my friends," said Benny, his nose twitching with excitement. "A challenge like this is just a bunny hop, skip, and a jump away. Lead the way, Tilly." Off they went, with a bouncing bunny, a rolling tortoise, and a flying, joking parrot. Benny hopped along happily, his white tail bobbing in the air. He skipped over rocks, hopped through patches of soft moss, and jumped around the gnarled tree roots. "This is great," he shouted. "But we still haven't found any giggleberries." "Just look for the brightest patch of bushes," said Tilly. "Giggleberries grow on bushes that giggle when you touch them." Soon, they heard a friendly giggle and followed the sound until they saw a group of bushes shaking with laughter. "There they are," shouted Benny, and he began picking the plump, juicy berries. As he picked, he sang, "Oh, giggleberries, round and bright, fill our day with laughter and delight." Tilly watched him for a moment, then asked, "Do you think we'll have enough to make jam?" "Of course we do," said Benny, dropping the berries into a big wicker basket. "We've been picking since sunrise, and this basket's almost full." Suddenly, Pop swooped down and cried, "Oh, dear, this looks like fun. May I join in?" Before Benny or Tilly could answer, Pop landed on the basket, and with one careless nudge of his beak, sent the berries tumbling down the hill. "Oh, no," cried Tilly, rushing after the runaway fruit. "The jam will be ruined." "Don't worry," said Benny, and in a flash, he was off and running, dodging trees and leaping over logs in hot pursuit of the giggling berries. Pop wanted to help, but he couldn't fly with shaky wings. So instead, he perched on a nearby branch and called out, "Come back, you silly berries. We need you for our jam." But the more he tried to stop them, the more the berries giggled. Benny and Tilly were having trouble, too. As they chased the giggling fruit, they stumbled over tree roots, fell into patches of soft moss, and bumped into each other, sending them sprawling on the ground. At last, they reached the bottom of the hill, and the sight before them made them gasp. The runaway berries had formed the giggling river that flowed merrily through the trees. "How can we possibly gather them now?" asked Benny, his ears drooping with sadness. "I have an idea," said Tilly. She took a deep breath and shouted, "Who wants to see a magic trick?" Benny and Pop looked at each other. Then back at Tilly. "Me," they said in unison. Tilly closed her eyes, raised her arms, and in a flash, she was rolling away from them as fast as she could. "Catch me if you can," she called over her shoulder. Before either Benny or Pop could move, she was out of sight. Then they were off, racing side by side through the trees. They dodged low-hanging branches, swerved around fallen logs, and weaved in and out of clusters of bushes. When they finally stopped, panting and out of breath, Tilly opened her eyes and said, "Now watch." With a flick of her wrist, she sent the berries flying into the air. And as they floated slowly down around them, Benny and Pop reached out and gathered them in their hands. Soon, they had collected all the giggleberries and started back up the hill. They were still a little shaken from the chase, but they were also giggling uncontrollably. "That was the best magic trick I've ever seen," said Benny, wiping tears from his eyes. "It was," agreed Pop. "But how are we going to make jam now?" "It's too runny." They looked at each other and burst into even more giggles. Then they started to laugh, and their laughter echoed through the trees as they raced each other to the top of Ticklitwig Hill. Up above, they reached the treehouse and tumbled inside, collapsing on the floor in a heap of giggles. For a moment, they lay there laughing until their bellies hurt. Then Pop sat up and said, "We never did make jam." Benny nodded sadly. "All we have are these silly jokes and this empty pot." Tilly poked the pot with a wooden spoon. "We may not have giggleberry jam, Benny," she said, "but I think we made a memory." And as they looked at each other, they couldn't help but erupt into laughter once again. The end. Hey, Gigglebugs, what did you think of today's story? Did you enjoy it? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to share and like. We'll see you next time for more fun in Happy Hollow. Bye.